Hey guys, BenKyo Baduk here. So in this video, we're going to take a look at a certain middle game technique that I want to pass on to you guys. Let's take a look at this position from a game played between a student and I, specifically the left side. How would you like to play with white? So one of the things that white can do here, among many others, is to build a wall on top of the black group. So what would the purpose of this be? Well, besides threatening this black group, since it doesn't quite have two eyes yet, we're also building a wall here that expands the size of this white moyo over here. Now, one common thing you can think of when you see two jump shapes like black and white right up against each other like this is to consider wedging, because the first person to play a wedge on the other will make their own shape perfect while giving the other cutting points. And if this happens, white's going to play something like this, and you can see that the moyo is getting bigger, and black is still under some threat since this is not exactly two eyes yet, and black is not completely out. Now, we'll look at some possible countermeasures for black, but before that, first I'll show you guys what happened in the actual game and why I played that way. And then I'll also show you guys a few examples of this walling off technique you can see in other situations. This is a very generalizable technique. So in the game, this is a lesson, so I decided it would be more interesting to build the wall this way, to cut black off from this group over here, for the reason that there is going to be this cut over here. So this is a weakness that black left behind, and I decided it would make sense to go ahead and punish that and sort of show the problem there. That's why I set up my stones to be more on this side. But of course, if you wanted a more, certain type of strategy, then it also makes sense just to play like this to pretty much ensure that white's going to profit from this big moyo. Because now if black tries to go in, then black's going to be trapped thanks to the help of these stones over here. Before we get into some examples, I'd like to point out that this technique is normally used when you're making sort of a bridge across over to a nearby stone like this one. Usually setting it up like this with one space in between each of the stones. It would also work fine if the white stone here were on the fourth line. There's a pretty famous old opening that made use of this, where black would enclose the corner here. And after white splits, which was usually played for a very long time to divide black's potential here, black would approach here, and if white responds this way, black would then send white over this way like that, and then build a wall using the technique that we just saw. Peep, block, and attach across. White would play the wedge, black would Atari, connect, and then white would go after the single stone usually like this. Black usually doesn't pull the stone out here because white has various techniques such as this attach here to create double threat against the corner and the stones here. And in general, white would not get locked inside anyway. Black also doesn't Atari because after white extends, black would have a problem to fix, and white would be already alive with a real eye over here and on the edge. Therefore, black would just extend, because if white tries to play away, there's going to be this Atari here, which actually falsifies the eye on this side and gives white some pressure while building a lot of thickness in the center. Therefore, white's classic continuation was to add another stone here, taking away all of black's forcing moves except maybe the peep. Yeah, and then black would continue with something like this to build the big moyo on the top side. Another example we can look at is this basic 6-move Joseki that many of you guys know. So, although it's not always a good option, black can play like this at some point in the middle game if black wants to build up the top side. Or, supposing white has a weak group like this on the top side, pincered by black, something black could do is maybe prepare with this exchange. Then, let's say black attacks white from here and white runs out. Then maybe black attaches on this side. If white responds, then the top group is going to be in a lot of trouble, because black now may have enough stones in the way without even fixing them to capture this white group. So then let's say white ignores this attach and jumps. At that point, maybe black wedges, white Ataris, black connects, white needs to fix these stones, this cutting point here, so white can do it in a way that peeps black's shape to create cutting points, so black defends. After white jumps again, black to play at this moment. What would you do? Okay, so I'll show it now. What black can do here is to cut. If white captures, black can cut inside and capture the cornerstones. If instead of jumping away more, white defends the shape here somehow, like let's say here or turn, something like that, black can just respond with something like Hane or jump and keep attacking the top white group for quite a while longer, benefiting over and over again along the way. Here's another example. We see that black could do it to white over here. White could also do it to black over here. And we see that white has a wall over on this side. Therefore, some moyo potential on the left side here. White could play like this. And in this particular shape, another classic technique would be to start from somewhere like this. If white expects black to defend the territory, then white has a beautiful sequence of peeping here and attaching across, elegantly connecting all the white stones into this nice moyo development. Of course, black can counterattack instead of playing here. For example, this diagonal move to take it away from white, or maybe even attaching in some cases. And if white thinks black's counter moves are going to be too powerful, then white could just start from here and do it directly like this. Now let's circle back and talk about some of the ways that black could try to resist the sequence. And after that, we'll talk about some of the downsides of this technique for white and what the trade-offs are. Before that, if you're enjoying this, if you could consider clicking that like button, that would help out a lot. You might be wondering what happens if black plays Hane and breaks through like this. Black can break through, but white also benefits from the bad exchange black made at 4, getting cut off with 5. So white can consider the extend or sometimes the Hane. One thing to consider with this Hane at 9 is what happens when black Ataris like this and Ataris their way out like that. If that's a problem for white, then white better extend. Thanks to black's bad exchange at 4, white also gets to look forward to this nice Atari. Although this somewhat crude technique of Haneing out with 4, getting yourself cut to then break through with 6 and 8 like this, does have its time and place, it reminds me of the really common Q level mistake in this situation, where white attaches on top of this black invasion, and black Hane's out like this, getting themselves cut so that they can turn this move into Atari. White extends, connect, block, and because black lost at liberty with this exchange, when black pushes here, white can even double Hane, and now, because of black's liberty shortage, black cannot capture this white stone. So black has to Hane under. Even after extending, white can Hane, and a lot of painful things happen here. It's even a little bit like this one. You may have seen this if you watched my video Q-style exchanges you might be making. Black pushes here because they want this next push over here to be more sente, more threatening on the white stone. But in reality, this push is a very bad exchange for several reasons, and black could have just played here directly without the push, because even if white ignores this, still black is going to be able to push through and pillage the area like this. Therefore, in general, after this technique is played, it's usually not a good idea for black to Hane, get themselves cut, and then break through with 6 and 8 like this. What about pushing here? Well, if white tries to give liberties to the c6 stone, that way when black Hanes the second line, white can block. Black will be able to push through here, Atari, and break through. And so if white doesn't like that, white had better block directly with 5 here, which then allows black to play this Hane on the second line. White can consider playing a double Hane here because of the liberties of these 2 stones and the cutting point here at c9. So if black goes after the 1 stone like this, white can Atari and then Atari again on the 2 stones to break in. But as you can see, it is actually mutual destruction because white has also lost a lot of corner territory. So white needs to take that into consideration before they even choose the double Hane here. In this case, because white does have a stone at d4, black can Hane once, but after we pull back and black pushes again, we can actually block now and protect most of the territory. Again, thanks to this d4. If breaking out or connecting to something on the outside is important, then black has this option to push out with 4. White can play here, which defends the stone at 1 while also threatening black's left side. And in a case like this, black will probably again play this bump in order to protect from this push and cut. After bumping, white probably blocks, and the same stuff we already talked about will happen. Since it's going to look about the same on this side, white doesn't have much to worry about with black 4. You guys are always welcome to ask me more questions about this kind of stuff. Like I said earlier, in general, when there's 2 jump shapes stuck to each other like this, wedging in between their stones is the common choice. Finally, you might be wondering, what are the downsides of doing this? Well, By playing in this way and solidifying black's position, we are foregoing options such as A or B to take away black's eye space. Because white has stones on each side on the third line, white can play A or B and connect to the other side. Even if black tries to block, white can play here, black connects, white extends out, and black is entirely cut. If black connects up to their other single stone, white can finish linking up with 5, and this black cut at 6 doesn't work. Even if white plays on the other side, and black cuts, white can still connect across. Or white can do it like this if it suits the situation. Whatever options you choose, you're going to lose the other ones, and that is just the nature of Go. Let's look at it again in this situation. If black peeps and attaches across like this, then let's consider what happens when white defends with R15. Black will defend their stones in some way like this, and you might be wondering what could possibly be wrong with black here. Well, give yourself a second to think about it. My clue is territory. Right, so let's take a look at the points in the corner here. Currently, if white were to try to jump all the way in, for example, then black could push, white blocks, and where should black play? Attach inside, get cut, and then Atari white like this. Now what do you think? Where should black play? The answer is throw in. So if black just Ataris normally, white connects, and it's simply a 3 versus 2 liberty fight, which black loses. However, by throwing in like this, you force white to play right in the corner with T19, and after Atari, white has an empty triangle. We also know that when you start off in the corner like this, you only have 2 liberties, where on the side you would have 3, and in the center you would have 4. That helps explain why white only has 2 liberties left now, and black can simply play Atari. Changing the order of moves, it's as if black played Atari, white connected, black played here, and then instead of Atarying black, white played into the corner with T19, which is obviously a terrible move. Then let's look at this from black's point of view too. So black's local move is to block here later on, right? Notice that the white stone is already defended and connected. So black doesn't have any more interesting follow-ups, and later on, white can expect to get T18 like this. However, before black made the wall here with the sequence, white didn't have a stone at R15. What that means for black in the corner is that if black blocks at S17 at some point, there's actually a very big follow-up at S15. Just so you know, for black or white to play S17 is actually 15 points. As well, for white or black to play the next move after that is a 10-point move. Where did these 10 points come from? Well, if white saves the stone like this, white is able to protect some of this territory and also get these follow-ups later on, reducing black's corner. If black had played it, then white would sacrifice like this, black takes. Later on, black is going to get this kind of reduction at T14. And in total, there's at least a 10-point difference. Furthermore, if black ever had a stone around here, then there's some very interesting stuff that can happen on this side. Let me know if you guys are intrigued by this. In conclusion, we can say that this walling off is really great for the outside, but not necessarily for territory. If white chooses to defend in this way, then black's actually going to lose some territory in the corner. That'll do for this video. Please like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you want more, and leave a comment, and I'll see you guys in the next one.